I describe the creativity of non-doing as resting in presence and moving from emptiness. And presence and emptiness is the Buddha. Not Gautama, the historical personage, but our and his Buddha nature can also be described as who we are without name and form. And this is also the art of life. When you hold the intention in emptiness, you're available, you're present, you're playful with it, you're having fun with it. And then this intimacy with not knowing allows the creativity to come through. I started this workshop at the National Ethnographic Museum in Sweden in 1999, after the authorities in China closed down my work of translating and publishing books on meditation. So what would you like me to paint?
Whatever comes from your heart.
I'm going to see what resonates within me, then I'll paint that. Go ahead.
Water.
Water, wow. Okay. Okay, I'm going to paint water. How the energy moves the brushes will also tell you something about water. Okay, that's it. Come and look. And do you all see a peace in this turbulence? Peacefulness in this turbulence? Yeah. Because water flows without a sense of the self. Therefore, it's always flexible. Came through San Francisco from Shanghai. Took about 5 days to get here. My beloved is Rayleen Abbott. She's an extraordinary artist. We met on Facebook, and she was a spiritual teacher in Paris. And then I invited her to Egypt.
Just a tad. Stop.
And then she came back to America, to Sedona, Arizona, where we live and where we paint.
I like the stripe and you know how it goes through on that first piece.
The stripe?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you ask a Chinese person about himself or childhood, he has to start with his ancestors. My father went to a missionary school, and he was able to go to Richmond University in America because of the school's connection with the Southern Baptists. So he became a physics professor, and he went to University of Chicago and then to Cornell University. He had 3 children when he went to get his PhD, and his wife died.
So this is your mom, right, with the star?
Yeah.
And she was the head mistress of this school.
Yeah, of 3 schools. She started 3 schools.
Alok, you have her face.
I have her face?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. She was a girl and wasn't supposed to go to school, at that time. And I think she really didn't like that. So that helped to motivate her to achieve something. So she went to McGill University in Canada. Incredible voice. And she met my father in Ithaca, New York, and went back to Shanghai and got married and had 2 kids, my sister a year older than me, and then myself. When we went to Kunming, she used her education. So both my father and mother wanted to save China through education. She's a very determined woman. When my mother was pregnant with me, the Japanese were coming. It was the Second World War. They did not want to have another child on their hands. So my father gave some herbs to my mother to abort me. And I'm sure my mother agreed, otherwise she wouldn't have taken it. You know, she's that kind of a woman. And what happened was that I didn't want to come out. So they said, never mind, we'll just have him. And I'm so grateful that they allow me to live, you know. I really like this painting and what it means. It's called Living Life as a Koan. I picked up this brush and loaded it with dark ink and light ink and went.
Alok is one of those forces of nature who wanders into your life when you're a Zen teacher. He looks like an old Chinese poet, you know, and so he looks as if he just walked out of the 9th century and something in the mountains. And it was fun, and he's fun, and so I like that.
At the beginning, and boom, at the end.
In Zen, you absolutely have to do things the way everybody else does, unless you don't. And Alok was one of the unless you don't people.
So this vitality, this passion for life starts at the beginning and completes at the end. And then in between, we live life as a koan. A koan is an enigmatic statement, such as, does dog have Buddha nature? Or the sound of one hand clapping. And it's not intended for you to use your mind to try to solve it as a puzzle or come to an answer, but to allow the koan to blow your mind wide open.
Koan itself, like other, is a kind of small artwork or healing story, you know. And like other artworks, it starts having its own life, and you start thinking, I've got to keep hold of it, but it starts keeping hold of you and following you around, and you wake up in the night and it's there.
My house burned down. I can see the moon. Please paint this. I often ask people to paint koans, because when you paint in a way that's intimate with not knowing, the way I teach,
my house burned down, I can see the moon.
You're available for another way of looking at things.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the house.
So the painting itself becomes a calligraphic koan. My house burned down. I can see the moon, and the house is inside. With the brushes, it's like working with your children. You want to be respectful to what they can do. You want to have a sense of what they can do. You want to play with them so they can expand what you think they could do. It's kind of an adventure. I like to give brushes to you. This is part of the ceremony between teachers and students in the Far East, that we give you our energy and our love, and whatever that we can pass on to you is a symbolic gesture. When you start to teach, you remember this. I have usually a little Qigong ceremony. I stand firm and I draw the energy from the ground through my legs. And when we're connected to the earth and open to the sky, then man exists between heaven and earth. This is how the Chinese philosophy thinks of us. And then we can be balanced. I let it go back into my feet, into the earth, okay? And then the second time, I pull it through my heart, through my crown, to the sky, and then allow the energy to come back through my body. After you get the glue out, switch it out, And just kind of... This is a workshop on the creativity of non-doing. The way I teach painting is not to teach painting, but to teach how we can not have the self be in the way. That's why this non-doing is so important. Yeah? You get a sense that you can pick it up and put it down.
Pick it up and put it down.
Yeah. Non-doing comes from wu wei, means no intention, no motivation. Wu also means nothingness. It's not that we don't have intention and motivation, but we hold it in emptiness. And if you want to write down anything about this workshop, you can write down two things. One is resting in presence, moving for emptiness. The other is being present, available, playful, and not knowing. See, this is how this stroke came out. I didn't know it was going to be like this, but I really enjoy moving with it. I was intimate with it. And you can see the presence at every part of the stroke. When I was a child, maybe 8 or 9, I would raise silkworms just for fun, as many children did in China. And every day I would have to go out and gather mulberry leaves for the silkworms to chew on. And once I climbed this really high mulberry tree to get really tender mulberry leaves, and the wind started blowing. And I was so scared. I just held onto the tree, and everything on the ground looked so small. And then to allow that to pass, to really feel the fear, and then to experience the fear comes and the fear goes. So you could say that's an experience of Zen, because you're just in the moment.
What is Zen? The short version is this. But filmmakers don't like that. Journalists don't like that. People like to have some kind of response that conveys at least a little something that's conceptual in nature. Please give me something to hold on to.
It's a way of living and experiencing the world. It's not something to believe. Because and if you've noticed, anytime my mind believes something, there's another part of my mind that says, hang on a minute, it's sort of, I don't think I quite believe that, So we have to defend our beliefs, but you don't have to defend anything in Zen.
Well, throughout the history of Zen masters have responded in ways that subvert that desire to have it rendered conceptually graspable, because it can't be. It's like saying, well, what is God? What is truth? What is beauty?
Zen is a Japanese word, and it's a pronunciation of the Chinese word chan, which is a pronunciation of a Indian Sanskrit word, dhyana, which just means meditation.
Well, actually, it developed in China. Buddhism and Taoism combined became Zen.
And Chinese culture was practical and artistic in really different ways from Indian culture. And it was in the world. And so Zen has always had that sense that you can be in the world, that everything has its own beauty, every living thing.
Beauty is that which is unrepeatable. One time, never before, never again. And we could say the same about Zen. See, whatever you're doing right here, right now is Zen. Everything. So we might say, just this.
This is putting it very simply. We can be much more complex about it. And I'm a kind of a simple dude, I kind of think in this simple way. I'm experiencing our being here. I'm hearing the birds. I feel the wind and the sound of the car coming. And this brightness that happens because we are in the moment. And this is where life happens. Yeah. What is Zen is not the appropriate question, even though this painting is called What is Zen? The appropriate question is, how can I be authentic? I discovered something Einstein says, that if you move your body, you're able to have more intelligent thoughts. So let's just move our bodies, okay, and do gibberish together. Stop! Okay, stop. When we paint, we want our whole body to be involved so that the energy is vibrant. So your hands, your eyes, your head, maybe even your genitals, but everything. Now, some of you are painting from your head. Yeah. You think about what you're going to do and then you do it. It's okay, but it's kind of the booby price. What you can learn with yourself here today is to let that intelligence prior to thought to paint. Okay, please paint this. If your choice is between repression and expression, choose expression. We are just a midair flight of golden wine between the master's pitcher and his cup. Please paint this. Let me teach you how not to come, not to go. Please paint this. Okay, so sometimes I will ask you to paint things that you don't understand or you don't quite understand. In the workshops, a very simple structure. I give them things that are impossible to paint, and they're like koans, and then they discover. And maybe it can teach you something. Yeah? So please paint, who am I? I've watched some of you, when the energy of the painting is finished, you're still trying to do something with it. So these are the first two, huh?
Those are the first two.
Why didn't you stop there?
I don't know. My brain told me to stop. My heart told me to stop. And my brain said, no. You're not done that.
Okay.
It was exactly what it was supposed to be. And then I said, I can't just paint one line and be done. So my mind came in, and I started to paint other stuff, and I could see, and I ruined it completely.
Once it's done, allow it to be done. Don't think so much of how you can make it better. This is the problem with human beings. We always try to make it better, and we always screw up. My partner, Rayleen Abbott, has learned from me this creativity of non-doing, and as everyone should, she developed it into her own form. And it keeps on evolving.
I did this painting in a creativity of non-doing workshop, and I just in an instant I saw this whole image, because this looks so much like the hairdo of a geisha. So I said, there's the geisha, because it was there.
And she has faces in them, and I don't have any faces. But she gets the energy of it, of the painting, and being available and present. Don't twist it so much, that makes it hard to come out.
Working with Alok is like working for an old tea master. And the tea masters had very exact ways of preparation and placement, and at the same time, awareness. I was living in France, and my French is not very good. So after 4.5 years of living in France and not speaking French well, I was really needing to meet people. And I joined Facebook, of all places, and I saw his picture and I said, I want to meet this person. And about 6 months later, he invited me to Egypt, and I met him as he painted the Great Pyramids in the King's Chamber.
I would move it to the middle an inch. Yeah, that's not an inch.
I realized that I was in front of a master painter, which I had studied Asian art, and they talk about the masters are one that actually paint essence, and that essence is alive.
I want to say a few words about Rayleen. She's an extraordinary artist. Actually, she's the real artist in the family.
The Zen arts is really about coming into that emptiness and resting in that silence and then moving the brush or arranging the flower.
And she does all these flower arrangements, or ikebana, and they're incredible, yeah.
Or just listening to the birds and being in the very now and in the moment.
So this painting here in the corner, Rayleen did, is called Sparks of Creativity.
The first sparks of creativity.
And what's the real name?
The real name is the Blinking Fairies. I just feel nature very, very deeply. And I know in the Zen gardens, studying gardening, that the Zen masters really observed nature, and it brought them really into the now. It's the easiest way to meditate.
It's like she's part of nature. And she talks with fairies. Now I'm this Zen dude, We don't talk to fairies. But we love people who talk with fairies. So when we have our intentions, when we want to reach a goal, we show up, we're very present, and we really aim, and then we let go. And then we're no longer there. So I would like you to paint what happened with the Zen master. He shoots an arrow into the ocean, and he says, bullseye. I would like you to paint that. Creativity happens on its own. We don't have to do it. And then you're so grateful that we're taken care of, that this life is taken care of. So here's a piece of shrimp paper. And these rocks are from the Ganges. You want to shake this really good, like a Zen bartender, yeah. And I also only paint with different colors of black. So if I get a vision of what to paint, I just got a vision of what to paint, how to paint it. I thank the vision and I put it aside. Because it's so much more fun not to know. Sometimes the vision will come through anyway. I'm not holding on to that. I'm just being available. Okay, so this is what came out. What do you see?
An energy in the center.
Joy.
What do you see, Ling Ling?
I see everyone's inner child trying to wake up.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this energy is quite strong, huh?
Yes.
Quite strong. Yeah, yeah. And I felt that is the child that carries the fate of all the ancestors. Now, this is a great picture of my father and my mother's work. This is my mother's school back here, and these are the refugee children whose parents died on the Burma Road when they were escaping the Japanese. And so many people died, and so there were
Children.
There were all these orphans. And they helped to support these orphans. So in my mother's school, there was this group of orphans. And my father was always very compassionate. So he has such a beautiful heart. So the second boundless vow of the Bodhisattva became very important to me, which is I vow to set endless heartaches to rest. And this has a lot to do with the suffering of the Chinese people, of my people. My name is Kwang-han, and Han represents the Chinese people. So it's like the light of the Chinese also means vindicate the Chinese, to be a light.
You really can see the suffering on the faces of the girls. They've seen a lot.
We go into the darkness of the suffering, our own suffering. We cannot bypass that. And when we start to see the light in our own suffering, we can help people to see the light in their suffering. Because the light is not going away from the darkness, but is to transform the darkness. My father died when I was 12. I deeply respected him, but I hardly knew him because he was a big deal professor, very busy. And I missed him all these years. To bring peace to the tragedy of my father's death, which I have carried all these years. To bring peace is to love him. And so paint to bring peace is to love. I vow to set endless heartaches to rest. It's been a very important vow to me. And so I've wanted to paint it for a very long time. It used to always be when I come to the second vow, tears would stream down my face. And since I've painted this painting, I don't cry anymore when I chant the second boundless vow of the Bodhisattva.
Pick out one flower, one tree, anything. It can be the bells, it can be anything you want in nature. And I want you to feel it. And I want you to kind of like be like a little child again. I like to dance and share some of my poetry with you, and then you're going to paint them. There were many female bodhisattvas that came down through history that were not recognized. Some were awakened, offering butter lamps in the temples. Others gained their enlightenment, offering flowers to the great Ganga. There were those who fed the hungry and the poor, seeing themselves in everyone they served. When their life was over, they returned to essence, not leaving a trace behind. And there was no need for recognition, for they had found the emptiness within.
This is Rayleen's music.
That is beautiful.
That's yourself.
That's magnificent, to be able to see the transformation through paper and ink. People come in and their mind is really, really busy. But then they kind of get surprised as they start beginning to paint, and the depth of what the poetry or the koan might take them. And that's what Zen arts really are about. The Zen arts are really about the artist becoming more aware, which is the most important. It's always first the artist that becomes aware.
When I came to paint this, I didn't expect it to take the shape of a tree. But what I realized as a thought is that the tree is a perfect form.
The stability of the present, I think, was even in it.
Stability and freedom.
If the yogi dwells in stability and freedom. And that was a really...
Really what, honey? She shared that she had carried a story about herself in being in a slump as an artist for 3 years.
I myself this story, that I'm an artist in a slump, and I believed it.
And she finally saw that she was carrying the story, she didn't need to.
I did this painting,
And then she was free.
like I don't have to have that
And this kind of creativity is so healing. Because the separate self, which is the depository of all our problems and our neuroses, is not in play.
And people often have very strong emotions to something like Alok's painting class, in the same way they do to a koan, because they were holding some burden they didn't even know they were holding, and they're not holding it anymore because the burden got stolen. It doesn't exist. And that's the idea, is that it sort of inserts a banana peel under your foot and you turn upside down, and it's great.
I really blossom and have fun when we're putting the exhibits together. That's when I really enjoy that. So we choose the paintings together of what an exhibit is going to be. If it's an exhibit of koans, we might go through with the paintings together and find the perfect koan for that moment. For many years, he's been putting all of this together himself and getting help here and there. But he's going to be 75, and that's a different time in your life. And so a lot of the background work that people don't see, the setting up the atmosphere, is a lot of the part that I do.
Please watch. You know what it reminds me of? The path straight to the mountaintop has 10,000 bends. This is what I call a Zen Calligraphic Portrait. I've done over 2,000 of these around the world. They're about painting people's energy and their essence and their evolution. This is where in the family, it's like they're holding the family. And in here, like she took care of everybody. This whole thing started, my painting started with a psychic. So I told this friend of mine who's a professional psychic, and I said, you know, this has happened with me. I'm seeing these images over people's heads if I look. So she had me read everybody at the party. And she thought what I saw was very accurate. And then she went into a trance. And when she came out, she said, the reason you're able to do this is because in a past life, you used to take brush and rice paper and paint people's psychic images. I didn't believe in past lives, but I got a calligraphy set for $5 at a garage sale a few days before, and I tried it on Telegraph Avenue. I used to sit there, the little sign, psychic image, with my $5 calligraphy set. And that's how my art career started. So this young man came to me, and I was very present with him. I looked at him, and I felt that he was very troubled by his family. So when I started to do his painting, this part was very, very dark. But as we explored the painting together, the water in the painting started to expand, so the whole thing lined up. So you even see a light in the middle, yeah? And then you see that there's this wonderful groundedness in nature of his being.
That's Shingeroshi. So when I met Shingeroshi, she's just like her name, heart flower. I experienced like this big lotus of love just blooming in my heart, looking at her, just falling in love with who this being was.
Buddha's way means this awakened mind, compassionate mind, how we live. So it's endless. When we make mistakes, it's not that, oh, we have deviated from the Buddha's way. No, that is part of the endless Buddha's way. We return to being present. That's why meditation is the core of it all.
Some people use meditation as, I get really good at the technique, but that's not it. It's the transparency in which we meet the world.
We can't think our way into being here, being immediately present to whatever is happening. The mind has a tendency to take us away from. So you can even start sensing when you're meditating, oh, there's this kind of agitated place in my brain. And we identify with that. We think that's ourself. No, that's not who we are. We are really deeply one with Buddha nature. So we learn in meditation how to return to this.
So that spaciousness, that's the not knowing is most intimate. I don't know that there's a problem. And so actually there's not a problem, that here we are and it's lovely. It's this very moment is paradise. It's another koan. And that doesn't mean that, we have to live in a beautiful place or set up our lives perfectly in control. That's more just fascism, really. It means in the emergency room or in a hospice bed, people can still have joy because life is there and the light is there.
And we often forget, thinking our unhappiness, our misery, is caused by circumstances rather than by this suffering creator in here. So I would like to allow a portrait of Shingeroshi to happen tonight. I would like to hear for you to say something about Shingeroshi, and then we'll put it in the painting. I often use this kind of painting to help people to explore who they are. And I call them Zen Calligraphic Portraits.
So I always think of her as kind, compassionate, patient, funny, taking you forward, leading you.
This feeling of love that you're just okay as you are.
And people become very intimate with themselves through the painting. Please watch. What do you see in this painting?
The semicircular shape represents to me what people were talking about regarding kindness, compassion, love, all these soppy things. And then coming right from that is this strong, powerful energy, force that doesn't end.
When the wind blows east, the cloud blows east. Wind blows west, the cloud blows west. When the energy comes, boom! Yeah. When I was 10 in China, this evangelist had come to our city. We went to church, because my family were Christians. He came to our church, and I felt this incredible thrill. Even though Zen people don't believe in God, because I have a degree from Yale Divinity School, and I used to be a Christian minister, so that's still part of me. And in a way, sometimes to say things to God is a way to say things that is the most expressive and the most accurate. You start with a raincoat, end up with a prison. Please paint that. Well, my brother Stephen was my first spiritual guide. He became my spiritual guide when my father died, when I was just 12, and just came to this country. So it was a very kind of vulnerable time. He was just a kid. He was 25 years old. And he was going to Bible school. He was all rah-rah about this God of the Bible according to their interpretation, which is very conservative and even fundamentalist. Kind of got out of the prison. We thought it was only a raincoat. And this religion filled a vacuum under my brother's direction. It never sat right with me because the experience of joy and ecstasy was mixed with this condemnation of this going to hell. If you do one little thing wrong, you go to hell.
This is prison.
Prison?
Oh, this is, I felt it very strong. This was one of those.
Yeah. You put on a raincoat and it becomes a prison. I put on the raincoat of that Christianity because my father died. And maybe I was protecting myself from all the tears, or having some sense of other, or having the raincoat be a substitute for his presence. It became a prison. And this is the human tragedy. It creates so much suffering.
You start with a raincoat and you end up with a prison. And that meant a lot to me because I feel like I've been wearing that raincoat and I've been in that prison. And so that's what this painting is this me being inside this, captive, and this emptiness, just inside this captive space. And that's where I feel like I've been, and I'm not there anymore.
And so one of the analogies, I think, is that the mind does build a prison just with good intentions, trying to just make us comfy, and then we live in the prison, and then most self-help programs are really an attempt to bring in a nicer couch or, paint the walls. I think, kind of pumpkin orange is in this year, in my mind, I'll paint, and like that. And so most of the things we think of as skills are really secondary, but true freedom is more like demolition. It's like you open. When you're really free, you can't see the prison. You can't see the walls. It's gone.
None of it is me. 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 Stop. Please paint. Absolutely none of it is me. Paint that. What we do is we say, this is me. This is my story, and I'm going to defend it. And behind those stories is usually a tragedy. Something terrible happened to us, or we think it happened to us, or it must have happened to us, or we carried it because it happened to our parents. I just paused to tell about my mother a little bit. She wanted to go to teacher's college, and her father wouldn't let her. So my mother just took her things in the little suitcase and put it on the boat on the Yangtze River and came back to say goodbye. I mean, this is a young woman, maybe 18 years old. She told me this in a very poignant moment. Her father just flicked his long sleeves, long sleeves in those days, flicked his long sleeves, looked the other way and said, let her go. So this woman did so many things without the support of her father. Welcome to your Zen Calligraphic Portrait session. So what I will do with you today is to see if we can chip away a little bit at our illusions. And they're left over. They could be deep. They could also not belong to us, but to our lineage, to our family, to our ancestors. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about your mother.
My mother had a very difficult time expressing her feelings or sharing her feelings.
So what's important when we work with people is that we keep on growing ourselves. And oftentimes we get people who have the same growing edge as us.
Love from his mother, and it just took me into confusion.
The mother is our world. So if there's a kind of a entanglement with the mother's energy, or we are stopped, to move with our own spontaneity in some way by the mother, or that her issues gets projected onto us, is very difficult to love her and to be free.
So she was very strong as the mother in the family of teaching us not to communicate feelings. Mm-hmm. So everything was locked inside.
Most of us have carried the mother's fate, which she carried from her mother probably, and her father or whatever. Yeah, and we carry that fate out of our love for her. This is the passport picture of the Chinese passport that my mother had the foresight of making so that we would be prepared to come to America. She brought my sister Ruth and me out of China during the Civil War. Incredible, courageous woman. And her husband that she finally reunited with and looked forward to a peaceful life in America died in a few months, And then she had to take over to be the head of the family in a strange country, how to make a living. And do that. She was incredible.
My mother would treat me as her favorite son and love me, and then for the slightest thing, lock me in my room.
So when there are things not resolved in us, they affect our relationships. When her father didn't allow her to do something, she also didn't allow me to do something. Naturally, that's how it is. And I was like her, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to go my own way.
And at 19, when my father died, I remember screaming one time, "Dad's dying. Let's talk about it."
I've gone to spiritual masters to, in a way, get rid of the mother. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work. We have to come to a very loving connection with our mother in a wise way and not carry her fate.
And she came running in with my uncle, her brother, and said, "Be quiet. We don't talk of this."
My mother belonged to the first wave of emancipated women in China, but you can see how much she had to rebel against her father, against the whole traditional Chinese way of looking at things to do that. And in doing that, there are things that were not resolved in her in a psycho-spiritual way. My mother is my greatest teacher. She and I had a kind of inappropriate intimacy, which created a lot of entanglement. When there's understanding, there's no judgment and no guilt. When you see that your mother was deeply conditioned and distorted, not in her essence, but in her personality, you don't need to forgive her. You just understand. You just understand this is how families pass on their shit. When I understood that about my mother, I could say, nevertheless, you're my mother. Nevertheless, no matter what happened, no matter how much hurt I've embodied, no matter how frustrated I've been to want to love you, nevertheless, you are my mother, and I am your son. And I will always have a place for you in my heart. And part of my love for her is to receive her blessing rather than to continue to resist her. Because this resistance has become part of our habit, resisting the feminine. So, the emptiness of the self is the one who can move through the broken heart of the world and be at home.
Radha-swami Deva Devi, Radha-swami Satyam, Radha-swami Deva Devi.
One morning, I felt an urgency to live totally. I was in the middle of a meditation, so I got up, I picked up the biggest brush, I loaded it with intense ink, and went, then there was some little hair sticking out of the brush at the end. So I took it and went very hesitatingly, vulnerable, almost helpless, from the male side to the female side. And then I stepped back and looked at the painting and thought, wow, this is also part of living totally.
Radha-swami Deva Devi, Radha-swami Sacha, Radha-swami Deva Devi, Radha-swami.
One of our greatest stories is about relationships. We want to figure them out. And relationships go through all kinds of muck in both parties. And also, it's not just both parties. It involves all the ancestors. My relationship to my mother, of course, affected my relationship with women. It's that guardedness, this not wanting to be interfered with or attacked, not trusting, not relaxed. Yeah, of course.
We trigger each other. I'd say this relationship kind of triggers our deepest wounding or deepest fears.
And so it took me some time to discover in myself what's really important is to be committed in a relationship rather than always be ready to run.
When I first came to visit Alok, there was nothing in his yard. And I noticed that there was a fruit tree, and he says, well, there, it froze and there's no peaches on it. It had several different kinds of diseases, but on the part of the tree that had the most damage, it was full of fruit.
There's this big split, right?
Yeah.
And then we bound it together.
Yeah.
And you put all kinds of goop in it.
Yeah, I put a lot of tree tar in it to just kind of keep it together.
Bind it together.
Alok and I met each other when both of us were pretty broken. Not him so much as me, the brokenness was more emotionally through some really big disappointments in my life. With him, physically, he had some real physical challenges. And so, to me, healing the peach tree was like healing us and bearing fruit in spite of the obstacles.
And what's great is that since she's been in my life, no matter the vicissitudes of our relationship, what is great is my body has become so much better. So much better. I thought I was on my way out. And when she saw me, she knew I was on my way out. But because of her love and her care of me, and her willingness to serve me, my body got so much better. In a clear heart, no mountain hides the moon.
One of the things that I was taught was if there's a teacher, it takes so many years to obtain wisdom.
Zen doesn't go for half measures.
And so one of the practices is long life practices for your teacher so that they can extend their life.
You think this time might be good for people to do your monocore thing with you?
Well, I think it would bring a lot of space to people's mind. Our working relationship is a work in progress. And it has been a certain way for a while, but now that's beginning to change. And
what's that? What's the change for you?
For me, well, I'm still kind of waiting and kind of, we're talking about changing, but it's kind of like wait and see right now. This is really the first workshop Alok and I have, I've stepped forward and really taught to. And so it's kind of a big deal.
I came to recognize Rayleen is an incredible gift to me from existence, and that I value this gift.
I just love that. There's shiitakes and ginger and soy. We should have let people just kind of homogenize first.
Homogenize.
Yeah, kind of blend and get be well fed and taken care of and kind of get used to being there and relaxed, and then we do the blessing and then you paint. Is that okay? Can you surrender to me?
That's how I envisaged it, because I wanted to paint in the beginning, and I surrender to you.
Thank you. What a wonderful thing to start your birthday.
Whatever exhibitions I will do in the future will be joint exhibitions with Rayleen. Okay, but you need to give me a couple minutes to
settle.
There's a Chinese story of Zhuangzi that one night he dreamt he was a bumper car, and when he woke up, he didn't know whether he was Zhuangzi dreaming he was a bumper car or bumper car dreaming he's Zhuangzi. So go back to your paint table and paint Who Am I?
Sing your own song, beat your own drum, fly on the wind, it'll carry you, dance your own dance, it's a beautiful chance. Fly on the wind.
The first big brushstroke was the extravagant gesture.
I'm just doing it, and then later I sit back and sort of question what happened.
Every fresh piece of paper, you have to love that.
With the moment so near, be your own light, keep your heart strong, and sing your own song. Sing your own song.
Do you like this one?
Beat your own drum.
You could go totally into the suffering. Let the whole movement of the brush express that suffering to see it more clearly, and also perhaps to release it. Yeah, so it looks like it's the light and the darkness, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Start to relax. Because you bring love to it.
I deserve that love, don't I?
When there's nothing to fear.
Here's a hug to help you.
Thank you.
With the moment so near, be your own light, keep your heart strong, and sing your own song.
See this? It says 75th. They had it wrong. They had 73rd. So I had to get them to change it because I don't want them to discount my age. 75th is perfect. This is a birthday card from my brother, Stephen.
Nice.
I got this birthday card from my brother, and characteristically, he sticks in a Bible verse to want me to toe the line to. Yeah. So I could choose to really react to that, or I could just say, "Dear Stephen, my brother, thank you for your love for me." Hello.
How are you?
A long time.
Happy birthday.
Hello, dear Marty. So this was in 1974. And so I piled my hair on top of my head. I took my $5 calligraphy set, piece of board and a cardboard carton, and a little sign that says psychic image.
Plant this in the winter of your life and let love be audacious.
Meeting you was such a gift from the universe.
In the spirit of the continuing journey, I honor the Buddha in you.
All my life, I've known only winter. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, all the awakened ones. But now that my hair has turned snow white, spring has come. Every atom, every cell. Complete healing for this body. Complete healing for this heart. For your grace and your blessings. All the Buddhas bless you and seal you all the days of your life. And when life is over, may you go straight up. No stops. And thank you for everything you've given me. And most of all, the deepest intimacy that you've shared with me in the wee hours of the morning.
Please watch. As I get older, I would like to be able to hold on to something. I like to grasp something. And my whole spiritual evolution has led me to the point of cease grasping, letting go, and allowing things to happen.
Yesu, Yemaya.